This is Guy Bogart with Purrs and Friendships. Henrietta Hitchcock, in one of her weekly columns in the New York World Telegram and Sun, writes, quote, "For some reason I have never been able to get very excited about fancy cats, although I do know that a thoroughbred horse is a much finer and more intelligent creature than an ordinary horse. But if a cat bunts his head against me or licks my cheek or curls up in my lap and purrs, then I rate him as a fine cat, regardless of ancestry or pedigree. I have never been able to observe any superiority in the disposition, habits, intelligence, or cattish charm of purebred cats over the garden variety," unquote. Well, take your choice. There are wide variations in both lines, and all are lovely. I want to present tonight a book by one who does prefer the fancy, and has been raising them for the past 20 years. Vivian Robinette and all those other former Texas folks, please sit up and take notice tonight. Mrs. Ouida B. Blacknall, in The Road to St. Ives, presents one of the most interesting books I've read for several of my 9 lives. It is a charming commentary with humorous incidents, feline lore, good practical hints on cat care, human interest, not to say cat interest, a review of the memory joys which outbalance trials in devoting a big chunk of one's life and family to the raising of cats. The book is published at $2.75 by the Naylor Company of San Antonio, Texas. The title, you'll recall, is from the old childhood rhyme, "As I was going to St. Ives, I met a man with 7 wives. Each wife had 7 sacks, each sack had 7 cats, each cat had 7 kits. Now tell me, pray, how many were there going to St. Ives?" You will enjoy the wealth of photographs and drawings of Mrs. Blacknall's book. After graduation from university, she taught for a time, and then after marriage began her experience in pedigreed cats. After only 20 years breeding Persians and Siamese, she learned to understand the stanza she quotes from Jim Valentine, and I think a lot of my readers will enjoy this. The Fancier's Prayer. "O Lord, who made the mighty trees, please build a silent Siamese. Please give us, too, a shedless version of our friend the stately Persian." Here's one of the practical hints that crop up in the book. Quote, "There are 2 bottles on our emergency first aid shelf. One is ST37 solution to use on little boys. The other is ST37 solution reserved for cats and dogs. This antiseptic solution has no disagreeable odor and does not sting the patients, either human or animal. Our reasoning was that if a medical preparation did not produce screams when poured over scraped knees, it would be efficient to use on animals. As a result, I have used ST37 solution many years for ear moppings, on cuts, bites, and scratches, and even to sterilize my hands and scissors when kittens are born. The full name of the antiseptic is ST37 hexylresorcinol solution," end quote. I have this popular remedy on my own shelf and can reinforce what the author has said. There are no advertisements on our CATS program, since it is entirely a public service presentation. But we do want it to be helpful practically as well as interesting. All druggists carry this ST37 at a moderate price in 5-ounce bottles. It is from the established old house of Sharp and Dome of Philadelphia, and I join Mrs. Blacknall in recommending it both for folks and pets. Just ask your druggist for ST37. You'll find a lot of practical information told informally and interestingly in The Road to St. Ives. How to build your shelters, disposal of toilet boxes, feeding, and the whole scope of useful routine get wholesome and detailed answers. A sense of human interest and humor are scattered throughout, like housebreaking, which is fully discussed. There are no fads or frills in the book. It's from personal, pragmatic experience, and you can save years of guessing by learning what Mrs. Blacknall learned the hard way. Let's go through a few at random from the paragraphs And here's one we can all say amen to. Quote, 2 women came to town to look at our cats and a litter of puppies at a kennel. One of the women asked me, are those cats any more trouble than dogs? Before I could think of a good answer, the second visitor replied bluntly, Sister, if you really want to save yourself trouble, don't have cats, dogs, babies, or husbands. But that's not the way I like to live. Unquote. We've all had that question to answer, and I've always replied that from a goldfish to an elephant, all animals take both time and cost money, and unless you are willing to give both, it is criminal to have any pet. If your pet isn't a pal, you don't have any right to it. And can't you just warm to Mrs. Blacknall's reply to a woman, giving her a curtain lecture ending, now maybe you should not spend so much time with those old cats. You ought to go out more to the clubs and not lose your social contacts. The author writes, quote, that was too much to take with a smile, so I let her have both barrels. I find the 4-footed cats to be excellent company. Although the rudeness is regrettable, the sentiment is unchanged, unquote. It reminds me of how we fortunately lost a neighbor's visits up at Beaumont. She brought 2 spoiled brats, each of whom was seated on the floor pulling the tails of 2 of my red tabby part Persians. I rescued the cats and announced as civilly as I can when I see an animal abused, pardon, but we don't allow any animals tortured in this house. You know my firm conviction that the cat has priority in all her own home over all visitors. And Mrs. Blacknall, when she first heard the term alley cat, wondered what it meant and asked 5 people who replied, quote, first, Mamie said I thought it meant all kinds of cats crossed up. Second, a yard man told me they are cats running around wild in the woods. Third, a clubwoman defined it as a homeless stray or one dumped on the highway. Fourth, a schoolboy insisted it's one with short hair. Fifth, a little girl believed it's a cat nobody lets come in the house to eat. What do you think? Unquote. Maybe you've felt in your placid hours something of what Mrs. Blacknall set down in her chapter on inquiries from new owners. Listen to her daydream. Is she sweet, gentle, affectionate? Will she eat whatever goes on her plate? Will she come in just every time I call and give us no trouble at all? Have you taught her to give a cool and careless eye to canaries or robins on the lawn? Will she cry? We want a pet that will tell us when she wants out, one that will leave no kittens crawling our feet about. Or will she sleep on the floor and not wake me at 4 a.m.? We'd like one young and strong that's never sick when we have guests. Please, kind sirs, we're raising among our delphiniums real-life cats, not quadrupeds of the millennium. You'll enjoy those experiences with new owners and her human touch. Quote, many readers will know just how visitors in the cattery feel when they look down at all the little kittens with the mama cat and ask, how can you bear to let those babies go? Won't you miss the ones you sell and wonder how they will be treated? You bet I will. If any sophisticate declares he never gives a thought to the kittens after it leaves the cattery, he is either a liar or a ruffian, unquote. And this wholesome comment, quote, we can hardly claim to be genuine cat fanciers if we pass by all animals except our own, or if our efforts toward the welfare of dumb beasts ends with gushing sympathy, unquote. You'll like perhaps the additional tips that usually go with the kitten's papers and note further confirmation of our advice about bathing cats. Quote, first, keep his feet dry and off the cold ground and concrete. When he gets old and tough, you can be less careful with him. Second, keep the cat out of drafts. Give him a clean box to sleep in. Third, do not bathe him except in dire emergency. Instead of giving him a bath, brush him. Put Flea powder on shoulders only. Better still, catch the fleas and kill them. Find a veterinarian who likes cats and memorize the telephone number, then don't hesitate to call him. Batten down all food supplies. After you lose a nice baked chicken, you'll remember this. Lastly, beware. New hose, draperies, open stairways, refrigerator motors, chair rockers, bed springs, ironing cords and hot irons, garbage pails, electric fans, commode lids, tubs of water, vacuum sweepers, the sound of pressure cookers, and whistling tea kettles, soap and soap flakes, cellophane, when swallowed they can puncture the cat's intestines, paints, poisons and insect sprays, perfume bottles and antique vases, and worm medicines which were made for dogs, unquote. Something of interest and profit is the expressed hope of the author in her book, and she has happily achieved both goals for the fancier and the mine-run cat lover like myself and most of my audience. She has what it takes for a fancier, including the loving sympathy and handy abilities of a proper husband and adorable son. I don't know when I read a more all-around charming and helpful book on cats, and I've missed mighty few of the past 50-year crop. So I especially recommend The Road to St. Ives for your bookshelf, and also some good-hearted, community-minded person in each community to buy it for the local library or recommend its purchase. Usually your librarian is glad to add books if they will be used, and I assure you this one will. Oh, yes, I must quote this also from Jim Valentine, The Lines to Spring. It's no use to try and reason with a Siamese in season, though a Persian with an urchin can be meek. If you do not want to breed her, just get someone to feed her while you visit with your in-laws for a week. I've taken quite liberally the copyright provisions that, quote, no part of this book may be reproduced in any form without permission in writing from the publisher, except by a reviewer who may quote brief passages, unquote. But I've never yet been refused permission by authors and publishers in writing to share their cat lore with our cats program. I'm going to write to Texas and ask if from time to time I may quote extra paragraphs. From Mrs. Constance Barton of Everett, Washington, comes an attractively arranged printed sheet of the Snohomish County Humane Society. I like the featured, You Can Help. The solution is as easy as ABC, animal birth control by spaying, and more excellent matter, including the Long Island Anti-Vivisection League card. It won't hurt you to read again. I ask for the privilege of not being born, not to be born until you can assure me a home and a master to protect me, and a right to live as long as I am physically able to enjoy life, not to be born until my body is precious and men have ceased to exploit it because it's cheap and plentiful. This is Guy Bogart with love and joy to every manifestation of the one life that is God's expression from crystal to galaxy. Happy Purrs.